Hey guys, so I'm trying a couple new things. One, I got a new wide angle lens and a mic. So hopefully that means my videos are just a little bit cleaner. I have quite a few plants out on my trellises that need a little bit of help. So I thought I would show you my plan for how am I going to get some of my plants to actually stick to the trellis. It's kind of dark out. It's a little bit later than I really wanted to be outside, but we're just going to see how it goes. Trellises are kind of my solution to a lot of the growing upward idea and giving myself a little bit more growing space. And in order to get some of my plants to go up, that meant I needed to get something to put them up in, which gives you the idea of pipe cleaners. So I know people who use, dark moment. Oh, it might be too dark outside, hopefully not. Let's see, we're going for it. I know people who use different types of twine. Hi puppies. The dogs were outside while I put the baby to bed. You can go in if you want. And they use, I've even seen some people use the washi tape to put the plants up. But I heard pipe cleaners was a good cheap option. And so with my cucumbers, because they need to grab hold of something to grow up, I figured I would try putting these on them and see if they're long enough for them to catch on. So let's see. All right. And so I don't want to damage the plants. I just want to give them just enough support to help them get going this way. Now, there's space here. It's helping pull up but not out of the dirt, the soil. I know, my gardening friends, I gotta stop calling it dirt. Alright, and so I'm gonna do the same down the row. Alright, let's see. You are almost long enough you didn't even need it. As you can see, I'm doing it pretty loosely. I want to give them plenty of room to move around. This is low enough the dogs have not been trying to go through them, but they have stepped on some of this. So, get out of bed. As you hear me get onto them for it. All right. Okay. You are going to get on top of each other if I'm not careful. Alright, so this one. It's not quite long enough. That's okay, because I have plenty. Just put more seeds in the ground. This little guy got a little rough there for a bit. Okay. That's what I'm gonna do with this guy. for this row as they get a little bit bigger. I don't feel like they're quite there yet. And again, I have some space for adding a few more seeds. If I want, I may just add some peppers instead, because I have some peppers that have started and I don't want to be drowning in cucumbers and things that I'll have to take care of. So I have some yard work to do, get some cleanup, but everything's starting to look really pretty out here. I do have a ton of cleanup still. It's not even funny. I've got a good amount of work, but it brings me joy. It's starting to look really pretty out here. I should have a little bit more time over the next couple of weeks. That will help, so I can build out a little bit more. My daughter's playhouse is going to go right there, and I'm hoping my dad can help me build it together, because as much as I'd like to think I could do it on my own, with my luck, I'll hurt myself. So, another good night to the garden, and we'll see what other fun we have. When it comes to peas and cucumbers that want to be trellised, you can see these little bitty spaces here. They're tiny, that get curlies. This is what grabs on, let's see this one little curly up there, and helps it to climb. And they will attach to themselves, they will attach to other plants, they will grow on everything. It's the vining part. Now, because these little grabbers are so vivacious, they'll get started right away. So one of the reasons why I did this moving up is just to help encourage it to keep growing up instead of growing on top of each other and attacking each other. So right now, these little twisties have been attaching to itself and then hurting the plant. I want to get just enough of that going up so it will attach there instead of to itself. Any other parents out there that really just struggle with whether or not they should run a dishwasher? I mean, it's just me and my kiddo. We don't make a lot of dishes, so it just seems like such a waste. And then I let them pile up in the sink because I don't want to waste running the dishwasher. So I'm trying to get better about just doing the dishes that I have and then putting them away. So I'll do that real quick. My kiddo and I are in and out, in and out, in and out all day long. And so I always feel like I have those little, I don't know what you guys call them, but mosquito eaters. There is an official name to them, but we call them mosquito eaters here. Fun fact, they do not eat mosquitoes. Not at all. Not even a little bit. But I don't want them in my drink, so I'm cheating and putting a cover on over it. Something to chat about real quick. As I've been planting out my seeds, I've noticed that some of my little starts just are not thriving. And some of them are doing great. Some of them are growing really, really well, looking beautiful. Others are not. I have a couple options. I do have some extra started seeds that are out there hanging out and in desperate need of being put in a bed. So I could. I really hate the idea. I could take the ones that are struggling and just rip those suckers out and put the newer ones that look a little bit better down. If I do that, I don't have all of the varieties I want, I could just put another seed in the ground and hope that it grows up, or even start a few more inside and then put it back out. Peppers are my special friends when it comes to that, because really, the cucumbers and the beans and the peas, I have a small window of time before it gets stupid hot here and they won't survive. We've already had, okay, I kid you not, my last expected frost date was April 2nd, okay? I want to say it was April 5th. We were 96 degrees here. Yeah. there you go. Now it didn't last, thankfully. We only had a couple days of that super hot weather, but it was enough that I'm not sure if those peas and cucumbers and beans will really do okay. Now, my bush beans have done well in the past. They've been okay, but they're not really in a shady spot this year. So where I have them right now is a decent spot for them in this part of the season. Because my bush beans are in containers, in the little barrels, I can move those and put them more in the shade if they start to struggle. I've done that before. It's really funny because I'm little and they're really stinking heavy, so I just go get my little dolly. I actually do this. I put a dolly under them, crank them up, move them around. That's how I got all of my planters over to the side. I think I have some video clips of me trying to do that. I should post that one of these days. But anyway, if things don't survive because of getting too much sun, I could move them to the shadier beds, which is kind of why I did this way. I planted the cucumbers and the beans and the peas that don't do well in the heat over on the side in hopes that I could, one, keep them more shaded. They'll still get plenty of sun to grow. As you can see, they are growing just a little bit slower, but they won't get as hot. So I'm hoping that I can extend that version of the season. Now, I plan on doing another round of them towards the fall, depending on how long each of the varieties are for the growing season. I'll kind of have to pay attention to it. But because we don't get super, super cold until really, sometimes not until Christmas, if even then. We've had some winters where we only get cold in January and February. That's it. But because we have a little bit more of those milder winters, a lot of these things are not frost hardy, and I'm gonna need to keep them from getting too close to that 32-degree weather at night. I'll have a couple of months of windows of opportunity where I'm just taking a risk. A lot of gardening in Texas is taking a risk. A lot of container gardening is taking a risk. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, I have more seed packets in front of me that I can start, and I'm gonna play with the idea of putting some different things out and figuring out where they could go, and maybe just starting some so that I have them as backup and finding a home for them. Man, that's a big mosquito eater. Squirrel, sorry. Ooh, that thing's so big. They're perfectly harmless, and I know that. I don't think they even eat, actually. Like, the most of their food and drink they get is when they're in the larva state. I should not know all of this information, but I like Google. Anyways, I have options, and I will be playing with it, so I thought I would just kind of share that with you guys, and just the real bluntness that things may die. Things have died. I've already lost some seed starts because of this, that, and the other, usually because of my negligence. But that's okay because I have others. Now, I understand that not everybody has as many seeds as I do, because I went a little crazy and I had too much fun with the catalogs. And so it may not be as easy to do that with. So what I would say is, if you are comfortable and confident with some of your extra seeds, just try it. Throw them out there, especially if this is your first year gardening. This is not my first year, but it is my first year gardening at this house, and definitely with this much space. There's a lot out there. But I just like the trial and error of it. That's the beauty of gardening. If it doesn't work, it's okay. Try again next year, try something different, learn from what you did and what may or may not work out best. Whatever peppers don't make it, I have other seeds, I'll throw them out. If you go to like the Dollar Tree, now it's really funny about Dollar Trees and places like that is things don't normally cost $1 anymore, but you could get a pack of fairly generic F1 hybrids or even some heirlooms for $1, maybe $2. Or if you have plants that like beans and things like that, if you're just trying to figure out what will grow when, get some of the cheaper stuff that sure will give you food, why not? And just try it. Put a pot out there and just put something in it. Now, if you're like me, I started off with limited gardening space. It doesn't look like it anymore because this yard has taken over. But my first home that I owned, I was gardening in raised beds on a deck above my garage. I definitely did not have a ton of space. And that's part of the reason why I have so many pots, because one year I just went crazy and bought a bunch of pots because I wanted to grow as much as possible. I did okay, but if you only have a handful of spaces, I'm not telling you to waste the little bit of space you have, but if things aren't living and you just need to learn from this time, just try something. Get some cheap seeds, do something maybe a little adventurous with one of the containers and use the others for things that you know will grow well. I'm taking advantage of my big space this year, and I'm just going to try a bunch of things and see what does well, how my planning is impacted by certain areas, what needs to be done. So I just want to take a second to encourage you to be okay with the fact that some of your plants will die. If part of the reason why you decided to garden is like me, you wanted to be a little bit more sustainable, you wanted to know what you were feeding your family, and the thought of losing your crop is a little bit more devastating, I totally hear you. It's scary to think about what one is in some of our foods that we're eating. I hate looking at some of the back of the labels now because I get nervous. But I also know that I've been in the position where I didn't make a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of stretch income, and you buy what you can to take care of your family. Sometimes it's a matter of growing what you can to take care of your family too. So while I'm encouraging you to be adventurous and just take a chance on something, I also want to recognize the fact that I don't want to sound flippant about whether or not you have a lot of space, because the whole point in learning how to container garden is to take advantage of limited space and to make the most out of your crops. So I will tell you that those big giant pots I have out along the side of the fence, I grew a ridiculous amount of tomatoes and peppers one year in them, and that's it. I had that, and I had the wooden raised beds that you see along my patio. That was my growing space. And for as little bit of soil as it is, it grew a lot. So although most of our plants really do like to have good deep roots and a lot of soil, it's more important in many cases to give them the right nutrients. So if you are trying to win back a plant that is not thriving, I have plants out there in the beds that they're just looking a little puny. It's not necessarily that I think they're completely goners yet, and I've been trying to kind of nurse them around a little bit. What I need to do is give them a little bit more nutrients, and so that's something I'm going to worry about. I'm not going to claim to be a organic gardener. I'm not fully organic in any way, shape, or form. I wish I could be. I'm just not there yet. Maybe someday. But I do like to try and use more organic and natural amendments. So I do have Neptune's Harvest, along with my worm castings and my fish emulsions. I'm probably going to mix a lot of that out there, slowly but surely, to get a little bit of extra nutrients in those plants that look a little pathetic. I think for the most part, it's because they're not getting watered really well, and I'm needing to be more mindful about that. Once again, it's probably all my fault. Whoops. I will learn from my mistakes, I hope. Thanks for just hanging out with me for a little bit and chatting. I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all take care now. Bye.